Hello, yes, next city place is resting. We'll get to another story, the part of Destinies video, and to part 60, and yeah. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Amino Lab. Follow me in the Amino Lab right now, link in the description below. And yeah, follow me there, guys. Oh, go buy my book, Sunshine Life, Cinema Sunshine and Rainbows for $2.99 only. I'm gonna be working on the spin-off, and hopefully it's gonna be out in published in 2 years from now.
The clouds parted over the Isles of Boreas. It was time to choose. The rebellion was in trouble. Ravens were scouting for the secret rebel base. They needed a game changer. Pieces of the Sky Ripper had surfaced. Bernardo knew that using it could go catastrophically wrong, but he was sure he could figure out how to use it safely. Also, a temple had risen out of empty desert. The Iblis stone was hidden there. It was a dangerous artifact. It could corrupt its user into a bloodthirsty monster. Maybe he could find a way to use it, to take its power without surrendering to its wickedness. And also, his old friend Lapino needed rescuing.
I'm gonna go see
Of
something.
course, Bernardo had a pretty strong suspicion that Lapino had betrayed the rebellion, and he had a gut feeling that he needed to use that to his advantage.
Alright, yes, I just gonna say something, guys. After this, I'm gonna go watch the Tom and Jerry Scintillator Hop the special. So yeah. Fuck it.
Every child knew about the Sky Ripper.
Let's go.
The Transcendent Emperor had buried its pieces deep. And then, this Emperor's horrific sacrifices had brought it back to the surface. Bernardo wasn't exactly sure how to use the legendary weapon. But surely, there must be some way to do it without provoking another catastrophe. Had he, somehow, summoned the long-lost components of the legendary weapon out of the deep places of the Earth? It was more than Bernardo could fathom. But if he could find a legendary weapon, he would use it.
Oh god. Alright. Let's see. Let's see.
As he set foot on the island, Bernardo couldn't help feeling a bit curious. Was Lapino still waiting to be rescued? No. He was probably drinking champagne with the ravens. Did ravens drink champagne? Did rabbits? Bernardo felt oddly thirsty, come to think of it. Why had he chosen the Sky Ripper? Bernardo never made plans that required constant vigilance. He was a hero. He didn't think too much. He just went with his gut and hoped it all worked out. The Sky Ripper was a long shot. He'd have to devote himself to it. No side journeys, no rescuing old friends. That was against his nature. Could he stick with it?
No, at this point, everything's against our nature. We had that so many times, so that's all I'm saying. We had that so many times, that's all I'm saying. At this point, anything kills us. Oh no, Harry! Oh shit! No, I'm saying everything on this point has been killing us. So I had no choice.
mixed traits. Am I right?
I'm saying that everything we
That
had.
had been his mistake before. Not trusting Zenobia's feelings for him. But how could he have known? After all these years of silence.
You guys want to read that? You can pause it. Like I said, you guys want to read that? You can pause it. You can pause the video. It's just like, you know, at this point we had just die over and over again. But I would just kill Lapino and Zenobia. I would just kill both of them. I mean, that's just insane. I would never do that. I don't know.
When he was still a thief, Renato had always been attracted to the women with the biggest chests. No, that's not what I meant. To rob, I mean.
Oh my fucking god. Yeah, that's what you meant, bro. That's what you meant. Don't like it, bro. Alright. Hopefully this is recording, I'll say that.
Kill the rebel! Caught one, Raven. Eat the rebel! Caught another.
Ow, fuck.
Renato hated gogglers. It freaked him out to cut them.
God damn it. That's terrifying, huh? This is the only things I hate besides the wizards. Because they literally can kill you. Yeah, they take a lot of damage. They take a lot of damage. Way too much, I'll say that. Okay, I have to carry everything around.
Puzzle. Renato loved puzzles. Except when he couldn't figure them out. On the other hand, if there was a puzzle, it was probably meant to keep people away from something good.
Sky Reaper? Ah, there we go. We reach it.
There it was. Sky Ripper's armature. The stuff that dreams are made of. Engineers' dreams, anyway.
The device was intricate. No one alive had the skill to make a thing like it. How was it part of a weapon at all? He'd have to ask a scientist. But first, he'd get the second piece. Sky Ripper had a heart. A core that had come to rest on the next island. Well, there was another island he could reach. Zenobia had just invaded it with her father's Raven battalions. She must be encamped there still. But fighting Zenobia now, that made no sense at all. He'd already sacrificed one friend to get this armature, was it? He didn't need to hurry to face her. She would find him.
Fuck it, let's go.
Reynardo asked himself why he changed course to confront Zenobia. He'd no idea. Sometimes he would just do things, and he could never figure out why he'd done them. Usually, they worked out. After all, he was a hero.
Let's try to speedrun this. I'll say that.
The truth is, though, he wanted to see her, wasn't it? It had been a dozen years since Swordfu School. He'd followed every rumor about her, every scrap of news. Not that he still loved her. After all, she was his enemy. No, it was solely because, know your enemy.
All right, maybe he should stop pretending. He knew exactly how she felt about him. But their love affair always ended with a tragic death. Unless, maybe he could find a way to dodge tragedy. Surely he could, couldn't he?
Shit, bro, I'm supposed to shoot me. Alright, so we just be dying over and over again. It's never funny. Well, it is funny. And messed up at the same time. Bad.
You couldn't hack this kind of firewall. You had to warm it up to you.
Ah. Alright. Yeah, I had to break stuff.
He couldn't do worse with Zenobia than he'd done with the core, could he?
Probably. What the fuck is down here? This is a shortcut, right?
These things really slice like ham.
I think I was down here.
Reynardo wasn't entirely sure how he was going to capture Zenobia. She'd be expecting him. And he didn't have Lapino to cook up a clever plan. Why was it again that he hadn't got the core? Maybe because the results tended to be disastrous. These streets were familiar. The Swordfu School was closed now, but he had been down that street 1,000 times. He knew that pub. He knew that alley. He knew the alley behind it much too well. No wonder Zenobia had chosen to invade this island herself. Renato slinked through Zenobia's ship, making no sound at all. Where were her guards? Finally, he reached her bedroom. She was curled up on her bed. Oh, he'd forgotten how beautiful she was. How sleek, how soft. He tapped her on the shoulder with his sword. She vanished. And he suddenly noticed he couldn't move except his mouth. In fact, soon he couldn't keep his mouth shut. He told Zenobia everything. Sky River, the Iblistone, even where the secret rebel base was, until he was hoarse. It was some kind of truth spell. A talky truth spell. She called her father by Farspeaker Toad and filled His Majesty in.
But why didn't he get the core?
Croaked the Farspeaker in something like His Majesty's croak. Because I missed you, darling. Renato grinned.
He doesn't even know why.
Frowned Zenobia.
That makes no sense. It's a trap.
Shouted the Emperor.
I'll meet you at the outpost, and I'll bring my interrogators.
If Renato came face to face with the Emperor, maybe he could assassinate him. But maybe it would be smarter and safer to turn Zenobia against her father.
Screw it.
You're lying, she said. Somehow you're lying. The spell hadn't worn off yet. He had to tell the truth. The trick was in making sure she wouldn't believe it.
The core is perfectly safe, he said. And he tried his hardest to sound sincere.
So is the Iblistone. In fact, I was trying to get them myself. Fine then, interrogators it is, she said angrily. I gave you a chance.
The Emperor's interrogators were not especially gentle, even by weasel standards.
Fortunately, Zenobia had locked him in the guest quarters on her ship. And she'd forgotten it had a toilet that, like all skyship toilets, could be vented into the abyss. This was not the sort of slippery fox he wanted to be.
Oh god.
Just as they were about to land, he threw the latch, wrinkled his nose, and leapt through the open latrine.
Hopefully this is right.
It was a short, safe landing. At least this part of the Nexus hadn't changed too much. Zenobia had been taking him to the Imperial outpost. She'd never expect him to go there by himself. Well, maybe she would. You never knew with her.
After this, I'm gonna end it here, guys. After this part. I don't know, I still have time to. I wanna end it here, like, I don't know. And I might do the other part.
Renato had been to a dungeon once where all the chests had teeth and eyes. It had been a short visit.
And just end it here, guys. Like, subscribe the video and all stuff. Subscribe to my channel.
Renato knew Zenobia, and Zenobia knew him. She'd suspected a trick.
Yeah, it's
Now
probably
he
gonna be
vanished.
32 parts of this
She would
other
probably
series.
guess that was his plan all along. Perfect. Maybe she wouldn't use the Sky Ripper. At least not without taking it to the scientists at the observatory first. Meanwhile, the Emperor would be coming to the outpost personally. This could be good.
Alright, let me stop it here.